Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is a Tuesday edition of the MSP Initiative Live. Today is January 17th, 2023. And here we are, another month where we're not quite, just a week or so and a half out of vacation time for a lot of people, especially in some of those international territories who surely love to take plenty of time off going into the new year. No worries. Welcome back. Hopefully things are getting back into the flux here. A couple of housekeeping items like we usually do. Let me just go ahead and share my screen. Second. Okay, here we go. So MSPinitiative.com. This and every other session we've ever done since March of 2020 is available under sessions. You'll have it in podcast and video format. So hopefully you're not watching while you're driving. Stay tuned. We are working very hard on 2023's MSP community block parties. We're looking at a little bit of stuff here as usual in the US and, possibly abroad in some of the international areas there. So stay tuned. Once we have a little bit more kind of, fine print worked out, we'll announce those. But we do want to tell people, and if you haven't already heard, we're running 2 in-person sessions this year. We've parked the tour bus from Channel Strong, and now we are doing MSP Community Minds. 2 live sessions, one in Dallas, 2 days, May 8th and 9th, and one in Denver, 14th, 15th. We're bringing a ton of experts, and these are just a few of the people that have already raised their hands that are going to actually go into workshops with you and hopefully come out with something more than a PowerPoint presentation and bullet points where you walk away and say, I guess I should research into that. And then 6 months later, you never did. So these people and others are going to actually go into, hey, here's what we're looking to solve for, and go into a workshop format with you and hopefully come out with the beginnings of something more than ground zero. Okay, so that's kind of the base concept of MSP Community Mind. So you'll find that on MSPinitiative.com under that tab. Last, we just launched a new thing called MSP Community Offers. So we have 3 to start. We have other people that will be coming on board. Basically, these are offers for the community where people have raised their hand and say, hey, I want to do something special. And that's the beginning of that effort. So check out MSP Community Offers. Atara was the first one to raise their hand. And if you haven't heard of them, come check it out. So those are the housekeeping items. Welcome to another edition here. Looks like we've got some good people in here. I'm supposed to have somebody be signing in shortly, but that's okay. The show must go on until they pop in. We'll see what's happening out in the world. All right, Keith Nelson, here we go. I'm sitting down. I got my seatbelt on. Go ahead. Your team won last night.
Great day in America.
And Tom Brady may have played his very, very last game, either in the NFL or as a Buccaneer. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first of all, it's a great day in America, where America's team is rolling forward. It's a great day for the NFC East. No longer considered the nothing division. I mean, what was it, just 2 or 3 years ago? People were laughing at us that we should have no one in the playoffs at all.
It's true. They did say that.
I think we're looking solid games this week. You and I have kind of chatted online about, the Eagles-Giants rematch. I think it's going to be, I think the Giants are going to hang for a while. I don't think they're as good of a team. I think they'll come out. I think they're well coached. I think they're motivated. I think they're playing on someone else's path, and I think that changes, the way you play the game. And they looked pretty good. We play the 49ers, which is my other son's favorite team, the one that played college football. So we're thinking about road tripping up there. I personally think
I can't wait to see you on social media in the stadium. Cowboys, Niners.
Cowboys travel well. I mean, I don't follow other teams. I'm not saying other ones don't, but you looked at last night.
There's hold on. There's a lot of Cowboys fans in California because that's where they do training camp and all that other stuff.
And there's a lot of Americans.
Yeah, right.
But even last night in Tampa, we had a good showing.
I think somebody said it best. I forget who said it, but it's like the Cowboys are like the Lakers, right? Like there is it's kind of like the when they're doing well, they're the team everybody, like you've never been to the Lakers games, you have no like affiliation with the team, but like, that's the shirt that you pick up, right? Or the jersey you pick up. That's kind of like Cowboys, right? So I can't tell you how many people, hold on, not you, but I can't tell you how many people in my area here in Philly Metro, and like there is no ties to the team, right? They've never seen a game live, never been to Texas, don't have any family that was rooting for the team. They just one day decided to pick up and the star, right? And like that to me is a little bit of a questionable fan. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I was going to go into something different where if you want to study just marketing, not talking about, you watch what Tech Stram did decades and decades ago with the Dallas Cowboys and why they became America's team. And part of it was they were kind of innovative. They bought radio stations. I don't know if you know this, all over the areas.
I'm learning. Go ahead.
They bought like radio stations in Oklahoma, Nebraska, New Mexico, Arizona at the time didn't have a football team. And then they went into Mexico and they were the first ones broadcasting in Spanish. So they expanded their base, and Texas is big anyway.
It's really big.
As a state, and at that time there was no second team in Texas because the original Dallas team is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh,
yes, the Dallas Texans, the midnight move. That was the first move of a franchise. And funny, after that, the Hunt family has voted against every other team moving their franchise. Kind of irony there. But the Cowboys went out and picked up all these markets all over that no one was serving. And so, and then they were, of course, the first ones with cheerleaders. And so if you just look at it in a marketing sense, not talking about on the field, Bum Bright and Tech Stram were amazing marketing guys.
Interesting. Listen, marketing is definitely it is part of the business plan of any company, or should be. Just referrals is not the way. It's a way, but not the way. Definitely something to learn there. And I'm sure in some university classroom or in some mastermind group somewhere, they talk about, how to take some of these, tactics and apply them across the board. But yeah, we'll see. Yes, NFC at least no more. And I am fully prepared for the next game coming up here in South Philadelphia, Giants, Eagles. You will surely hear me be loud and continuously post good, hopefully tasteful content online about that game. But that being said, let's get into a couple of technology stories, just because, I'm gonna, try and shift it back to the tech focus. I'm sure the Cowboys will come back into the conversation. Here you go. Today, thousands reporting Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams outages today. Did anybody experience this? 9:17 a.m. Eastern time.
Not that I saw.
Well, sounds like a bunch of people did.
George, it got me. I was just trying to complete a transaction on a new car warranty, and my Teams went down and I couldn't finish.
Car warranty. Do you even have a car? Oh, that's right. The coal powered Jeep, right?
Steam powered, 4 cylinders, straight 6. It's a machine.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I still got to see this thing in person. Listen, even the big boys get affected here. We've said this many times. Actually, somebody that's quoted in this article is saying that these access and outage issues are going to continue to become more prevalent year after year. The more we leverage off-premise cloud ecosystem, the more you will see outages and the more risk you'll have as an organization. Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Teams are mission critical applications. It's how millions of people communicate when there is an outage. Well, what if that is the thing that's under outage? There needs to be some other form of communications for companies to rely on these services. So,
there is.
Interesting.
The phone.
Yeah. In fact, there were several articles last week related to cybersecurity incidents at, say, I think a school in maybe the Pacific Northwest or someplace. Mm-hmm. And they took the equivalent of a snow day and were like, we have phones. That's how we're going to communicate. Forget email for now. Go back to the basics. And I'm not trying to be funny here, but think about Independence Day. How did we beat the aliens? Was that Morse code?
Yeah, it was
Boom.
Morse code.
Yeah, that's such an excellent point.
I had to think about that for a second. I was like, oh, that's right. Will Smith, Goldblum. Yeah, I got you. I remember. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I remember having a client that had an outage and the sales call, I'm going to lose the biggest sale ever because I can't send an email. And I said, you're going to lose the biggest sale out of spite because you can't pick up your phone just because email's down. You're going, how stupid are you? By the way, I wouldn't rely on my biggest sale ever on email, even if it was fully functioning.
That's a handshake.
Yeah, you're going like, you know what? Old school. I guess as older people appreciate, go belly to belly and close the deal.
So let me ask a question. I think this is not a silly one, but I'm going to throw this out there. Why hasn't the larger IT and managed services community at the MSP level adopted status pages? Like, it would be logical for you to put up your own status page so that your customers can like go to one place and that you can communicate with the people that you're responsible for in one place. No?
That is an interesting question that you bring it up, because we were just, I still, and again, I'm older, I admit it. I still think people don't want to go somewhere. They want that service, and that I responded to your Southwest post, and it's along those lines.
We're going to talk about that next. So hold that.
So you're going like,
hey, George, Joel is on, having some Zoom issues still.
All good, man. Welcome.
Thank you.
I don't think it's a customer's job to go to our status page.
But on the status page, you can connect email, Slack, Teams, text messaging. I mean, basically you just raise, set whatever your preferred, kind of route is. And then like the status page is like that kind of connecting point now.
Well, if you're pushing it, okay, that's a little different. If you're pushing it like through a Inverasoft or a Desk Director, or for your customers that, need you call someone, I think that personal service is the difference. I really do.
But like, isn't half the battle like you needing to communicate with people quickly and in mass, right? I mean,
no,
that's kind of the no.
I think that has to do with what the situation is and having an escalation procedure in place. I think that there are outages and problems of different levels of severity that could warrant very different types of notifications. For example, I mean, I'm no longer at an MSP, but when I was at Valiant, we had a number of different levels for when something would happen. Sometimes it is an email that would get sent through, our PSA with a template. Sometimes it's phone calls to clients from account managers. It really depends on what it was that was going on.
I think it's the messaging. It's like, not your system's down, but I give a shit. I mean, I care. I should, or, I think that's the messaging we miss. We become technical and go, it was on the status page. I think it's the personal, I care about your business. And
Keith, I'm gonna throw one thing out there really quick before you finish that, because I'm gonna forget it if I don't.
No, go ahead.
There was a scene in the movie Idiocracy where there's equivalent like a Walmart and the guy walking in, welcome, I love you. Welcome, I love you. I see that as automation. I see that as the cold side that we're trying to get away from in this conversation now.
Yes.
It's that personal touch. You can say the same thing over and over again, but if I know it has no meaning, neither does the messaging behind it. And sometimes getting and picking up that phone and being like, hey, Phil, how are you? I just want to let you know what's going on. We've got it under control. We'll give you an update in the next 30 minutes is going to make a much larger impression. But again, it depends on scale of the event and the size of your staff and whether or not you could actually do that in a way that's going to be genuine.
Well, I think that right there, I think you hit the nail on the head, not to take it back cliche, but like a lot of the staff of MSPs, right? Most, believe it or not, like 80% of MSPs, I think Peter said this from Service Leadership a couple weeks ago or a few weeks ago, like 80% of MSPs are like less than 10 employees.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 50, 80, 100, customers, unique customers, and then think about the number of people underneath of each one of those, that's a lot of communication to happen in a short period of time. So you got to have tools. I don't see how you can do it scalably otherwise.
I don't know. I think I get. You bring us, first of all, if you had that many customers, you're not charging enough if your staff is that small. Let's leave there. And let's go to the next.
Well, hold on, Keith. I mean, how many times did you see Luis, who has shifted a couple of different places? I think now he's at ScalePad, and he would do this presentation where he had like a 1.x million MSP with only 2 people.
The dollars doesn't matter.
Okay. I
think it's the number of you can't handle that many customers with the type of service to get top dollar with that little staff. But I was going to go to what's easier. At each client, I don't have to call every employee. At each client site, at least for me, there is someone that's kind of our
primary contact.
Yeah, like kind of our on-site IT guy who's just our communications director, right?
Sure.
And like just the other day, because of California can't tolerate rain, internet goes out, electrical goes out, we can't drive. We're just not, we don't know what to do with the water. The foreman's union phones, internet connection went down. So I called the main dispatcher and I said, I'm calling you on your cell phone to verify your phone's automatically switched over, which I knew they did. And so just let all the guys know their desk phone won't ring, their cell phone will.
Okay. I mean,
Not a
listen,
big
that's a
deal.
good, that's not a bad DR strategy. Joel, by the way, check your email. I sent you a link, but that's not a bad DR strategy. I mean, like at the end of the day, big picture, right? Like that's something you had control of, Keith, right? You don't have control of Microsoft going down or AWS in East Coast goes down. How many times that happened in 2022 where like multiple big level names went down for a day, half day, 4 hours, right? Because of whatever, right? Like, I mean, big picture, cloud's great. I think we've all heard the message. If you properly implement it and if you properly secure it and if you communicate what the plan is when it goes down. And Keith, we've talked about this a number of times where your backup system in a lot of use cases was the triple carbon paper, right? That's okay, right? I mean, but you got to have something rather than nothing, right?
Yeah, and if email goes down, my call to you would be, hey, you're my customer, George. Microsoft 365 is down. We're aware of it. We're monitoring it. But if you're waiting for that big important email, you might want to pick up the phone and call that person. Just a tickle reminder.
But
there's
are
a way
you
to
going to
conduct
individually
business.
call? Like I have a power dialer, Keith. I could probably take one person and in a matter of a shift, probably I've seen the most somebody in 9 organizations being able to actually call in one regular normal shift with the power dialer, maybe 350 people. The question is, how many people can you call?
One at each site.
Assuming that that person exists.
Well, that's part of your pre-strategy. I mean, DR doesn't happen by accident. Part of your strategy, customer service and disaster preparedness is the communication channels.
Yeah. Well, what is that? Doesn't that mean you're supposed to have a backup person in case that person's not there?
Exactly.
Okay. See, maybe we're going to have Keith Nelson on the proper way to create your DR strategy. I think you have some good insight.
Having lived through a couple events, I think I do.
I'm going to put you on stage and we're going to have to learn from you, my friend.
Yeah.
Another quick one, Joel. I don't know if you're having the opportunity to sign into the Zoom.
I'm trying. We're on the second email and it is still not letting me in. So it's not going to work. But.
Okay. Well, we'll just try and wing it and go the voice side. So just one more thing that I'll sneak in there, and then we'll talk to Joel here, who's supposed who's our guest for today. And maybe you can help talk about this, Lisa, because you're inside the organization. But big email went out last week, and I see that this article popped up where it looks like ConnectWise internally has made a shift to a Salesforce product to like consolidate all of their partner ticketing, case management. I guess we could put a fancy word to it, but like effectively you've shifted all ConnectWise, divisions, products, all the support that you're trying to, get from a partner level into a Salesforce solution. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Or did I catch her off guard? Maybe she's just listening in, but yeah, I noticed that come through the other day. I wonder, at what point, because SaaS and running an MSP can be, differ at times, right? At what point, do the products that you use to support your customers change, right? I mean, I know that I talk to MSPs all day long, and it's interesting when you talk to people who are really coming from the software development side, right? Versus an MSP that does some DevOps internally, or maybe they're coming from, more of a professional services, but not necessarily the full-blown MSP model, right? Where they're actually doing, block time or hourly time, or, they're effectively working backwards against the contract. Like these 3 or 4 like kind of variations could potentially change what tool makes sense, right? And I think the other part, that's interesting is scale, right? Once you get to a certain size, do your tools change? I guess the answer is yes, but I'm curious what everybody's opinions are. No, nothing, quiet. All right. Now we just take it as a news item and park it in the back of your head. Joel, welcome from Infima Security. How you doing today, Joel?
I'm well. Frustrated with Zoom here. I'm deleting it and reinstalling even at this point.
Okay. Well, sometimes technology always doesn't work. First Teams, now Zoom. Ironic. Joel, by the way, just super thank you for helping support the MSP Community Block Party in Orlando last year, or not last year, technically last year, a couple of months ago. So
yeah, that
really,
was great. That was a blast.
Really appreciate you guys for jumping in and helping support that. And we love those, right? I mean, they're hard to put together and they're a little bit crazy, especially when weather throws like, a wrench into the pipe there. But you guys really had that cool, what was it? The rehydration station where like you had this cool
yeah.
mix. Talk about that, by the way. I think that's like a side business that you work in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I am tangentially involved there, but it is these kind of electrolyte packs. This hydration has become bigger and bigger. I was actually looking at numbers. It sold $60 million in two years ago, the whole category throughout grocery stores, and it sold $330 million this past year. So from 60 million to 330 million, it's just become a big deal. We are not hydrated well enough, and especially after we're out late night listening to a concert and drinking some beers. Really love that business. It's called Hydrant. We're based out of New York, and so we were doing some kind of cross promotion there, and it worked out great because I think some of our community there really enjoyed waking up and having a little hydration and a little Advil and
it's
get
amazing.
going again.
They always say the people in the northern part of the country aren't out in the sun enough because it gets cold, and so like there's a vitamin D deficiency, right? Because we're just not getting enough sunlight. But next to that, right? I mean, we're just not drinking enough water.
Right.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
So,
it's a silly thing. It seems inconsequential, but it's so significant. So
I was just reading
doctors are even now prescribing it.
Yeah, I was just reading 2 days ago. I forget what article, but basically lack of water intake speeds up aging.
Well, we're 70% water, so it would make sense, right? I mean, that's just going by the numbers.
Speeds up aging. It speeds up aging. I didn't know that. Okay, so that's the fun part of it. So by the way, thank you. We hope that you continue to help us put those on. So let's talk about your regular day job, right? Let's hear about Infima Security. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the company and what you're cooking up over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. It is fun to be a part of this community. We've this past year was the first time we joined in with you guys, George and team, and I am amazed at the events that you guys are able to pull off. Truly.
Sometimes I'm amazed too.
We Infima was started in 2017, and we do security awareness training. We started with a little bit different model, and then continued to see this demand and need for security awareness training. Over the last 2 years, there's been so much more of a push, and it's been very concerted. The demand drivers have been cybersecurity insurers and regulators primarily, and then sort of the third would be vendor questionnaire requirements. If your clients are vendors to larger organizations, law firms especially are diving in hard because they've realized that they've signed engagement letters that require security awareness training, and they may not have had it beforehand. But what we do at Infima is we fully automate the process. MSPs are already harebrained, running around like crazy, as Keith was saying. You've got to have your, when you guys were just going back and forth about having your appropriate staff for your level of revenue so that you can maintain the service that you need, and whether or not, how many things can you automate? Can you automate it and just have a status page up and so that people can go there and hop on and say, oh, okay, such and such is down, I'm okay. I mean, that doesn't typically work with a lot of the SMB community that the MSP focuses on and serves. And so what we do is, specifically in our world of security awareness training, we take everything and make it 100% fully automated. 3 clicks and you onboard a customer. And then we take care of everything, soup to nuts, from all of your training, all of your reminders, all of your phishing, and all of the tracking and retargeting phishing emails for every individual user. And we're even looking then at behavior with those phishing emails, because at the end of the day, we're solving for two things. We're solving for compliance. And to that end, we provide a security awareness training policy that's tailored for each one of your individual clients. And then we're solving for actually enhancing security, which is both a knowledge problem and a behavioral problem. It likely leans more behavioral if you really think about it, because the smartest people in this business can still fall for things. And it is not that they're unaware. It is simply that we make mistakes at times.
I'm going to jump in right here, Joel. I mean, people who keep on saying that they don't need it are the people that always get hit. I don't know whether it's the CEO, the owner, the operations or office manager that think they just, they're great. And I'm not saying they're not, but aren't they the most vulnerable ones? Aren't they the ones that if they get hit, they have the access to the bank accounts and all the important stuff?
You're absolutely right. It is typically those people who don't think that they're vulnerable, and we have somewhat of a profile of that, who that looks like, but in reality, so many of these attacks can start at just about any level of an organization. It's just that remarkably, sometimes the person who actually holds the keys is also the easiest to compromise.
Yeah. I see it all day, every day. It's very frustrating because they're the people that don't want to turn anything on. I also think they're the first people Keith Nelson tells to go find somebody else.
I don't think Keith is afraid to send somebody along when they don't fit.
Yeah, I can imagine. So there seems to be, we're running into a lot of this conversation, right? Security awareness. I think the problem is, and we've had a couple of other people in the kind of a similar light earlier on back in 2022 say, some of the challenges are inconsistently run. MSP doesn't have time to actually, make sure that it's sent out. New users come onto the company and they're not included into the platform. There's no actual results capturing, meaning you couldn't say, well, here's the results, over time, right? So you can present that to anyone who raises their hand and says, are you actually doing this? Can you prove that the actual security awareness training is actually being done and implemented? These are a lot of the challenges around it. And then, I'm just throwing out some of the things that have come up before. And I think that one of the other problems is people think that it's just not really great, right? They think that the content is stale and then they kind of lose interest and they bag out of it. So I'm just throwing all this stuff against the wall here for you.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate that. I mean, you hit on several important things there. Sorry, I'm still trying to get into Sade's she's still working on this, and I appreciate it. But to your point on there's things that seem stale and may not be interesting to that might not appear interesting in reality. That has been a big concern until now. It's just a driver. It's just driven by regulatory need. And so some of that goes away when your point of contact or the CEO at the organization that you serve just says, hey, everybody, I don't care if you like or dislike this. This is what we're doing because we just have to. And so back to your point, though, operationally, there is from one of the key, several of the key steps that we saw through automation. So it's sort of the pitch, but also talking about why it has to be this way. Is when I said we do a 3-click onboarding, we take care of onboarding all of the users through whether it's in 365 or Google, syncing those users, those sync multiple times per day. And what that means is when, your 58th customer hires 10 new people, you don't have to then run through and make sure that you've got them into security awareness training. Let's fast forward and talk about why that becomes a problem. When you look back and you say 6 months ago, customer number 58 added 50 new people, and we forgot to set them up with security awareness training, and now they have a compromise. Mm-hmm. Post breach, that cybersecurity insurer is totally able at this point to subrogate that claim, meaning go after the third party who failed to do what they were contractually obligated to do. that means getting sued by the insurer to cover your client's losses.
So let me ask you a question, a side question, but it's worth mentioning. Have you ever had somebody that get hit by the insurance company because they failed to do something? Do you know? Have you actually had somebody raise their hand and say that they got hit?
We haven't seen it yet, fortunately. Though we've been reading stories, and we've been writing a little bit more about subrogation in our blogs, and we're hearing about it a little bit more too from others in the cyber insurance space. We're friendly with some of the community who you see around in there. Whether it's like Larry Mader at DataStream or other, and so the answer to your question is I have not spoken with anybody personally on it, though we've been hearing more about it, and there's more being written about it.
Just like some people have finally come up and talked about their experience with hacks and tools getting compromised in the past. I mean, I surely don't want anyone to get hit, but it's surely a learning lesson to figure out if and when something like that happens, what they're saying why, what did that process look like, because it's probably not a good process.
I have seen it, by the way. And Joel,
Okay.
hi, we met in Orlando. I don't know if you remember me.
Absolutely, of course I remember you.
I have seen it doing some forensic audits, and I think it's becoming more common. And even at the times that the insurance company doesn't get full relief, you look at the expense. I mean, like I said, people talk about getting sued and they go, "Well, you'll win." I go, "No, you lost. The minute you're served, you lost. It just depends on how much you've lost." And I think
just the cost of defending yourself is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the reputation and all those things. And I think that, having gone through it, the insurance companies are actually making some really valid points. You make material representations when you answer those questionnaires so they can underwrite you. And so whether you get completely denied or an adjustment in the claim, they're going to go through that. And then on top of that, not even considering the insurance, anytime you've had that breach and now you have to call people and say, my stupid, accounting person clicked on this link, so now we're backtracking all the spam email we've sent out that was bounced off our relay, you've lost. I mean, you've lost in reputation. So I think
the reputation part, 100% hard to quantify, especially in the beginning, right? But the actual insurance company coming to you and saying, "Hey, Mr. Downstream, IT service provider, managed service provider, we're now suing you because the claim was for X million, and we feel that you are a little bit responsible for some of this because you said you were doing this, and the questionnaire said that it was happening, and then actually it wasn't happening." Like, I'm sure there's a dollar amount that comes on that lawsuit, right? They don't just say, we'll figure it out and tell you what the number is in the end. That's usually not how those start.
Yeah.
So big picture, before I let Joel continue, Keith, since you've seen this, were they successfully able to, defend themselves or no, in your example?
First of all, I stopped staying till the end. I learned that one back years when I was a paramedic. I never stayed to see if the people survived because it was depressing. One of them was the insurance company was looking to move all the damages to the guy who used, we talked about this before, who used doctor in his company title and had no degree. And the insurance company basically said, you were supposed to be doing this. You filled out the form with the customer. The judge went along with the customer was the one that was the victim because of unscrupulous advantage. We've talked about those laws, and it was being deferred to the insurance of the MSP who didn't have any. And I remember we talked about this before. I said, I felt bad for the guy, but he clearly had no clue into what he was doing for a living. Had no clue. Just, did not understand anything and probably should have been, programming cell phones, not running a network, but it is what it is.
Fair enough. That doesn't sound like a good outcome in the end for that doctor company, but good to know. So Joel, you started Infima because you found that there was a gap in, cybersecurity awareness training. By the way, I think it's pretty much I don't know of anyone who shouldn't be doing it at this point. I know a lot of people don't that should be, but I think that generally speaking, everyone should have something in this category. Why did you jump into MSP land? Is that what you built your platform out to solve for originally, or did it start with small businesses and then did you trickle into MSP land? How did you go there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. We started out wanting to serve the SMB community, and when we got into this business of providing security for the SMB community, we then became aware of some MSPs, and shortly, of the MSP channel. It was shortly after that became close, had sort of gotten close again with an old friend of mine. Funny enough, he was a Sunday school teacher of mine when I was a kid, and he ran an MSP here in Orlando, and he just started sharing more and more with me. They started using our product and helping us to learn more. And this is probably 2018, 19. But then, and we had a direct sales and we had our MSP sales. In 2020, because of our billing, we do month to month. We saw for MSPs, our MSP users dropped dramatically. That's a little bit scary, but that's the model that we want to make, because the MSPs are the same way. When your businesses, where any MSP on here is welcome to jump in, but when any one of your businesses, one of your clients went under in 2020, you weren't able to go sue them for anything of meaning, and you probably just don't even deal with it. But yet, if you're still having to pay for your vendors' products, something's just not right about that. So that's our model. But then we ended 2020 way higher than where we started with our MSP community, our overall users. So we're like, okay, there's something here. And then in December of 2020, so this is a little bit of the longer story, but it's important for how we've really learned the MSP community. In December of 2020, Kevin, my business partner, who's our CTO, came to me and he goes, hey, that automation that we had been talking about, in fact, that Matt Lee had kind of thrown it out there, like, here's a challenge if you guys can figure this out. And he had told us about that summer of 2020. And Kevin, when he first heard about it, was like, nah, it's not possible. In 2020, or in December, he came to me and he said, that thing I told you we couldn't do? Well, I figured it out. And what that meant was, what we were really doing was, we were at our onboarding, we're syncing all of the users, but we're also taking care of all whitelisting. That is so critical, because every MSP has a different, as much as you want. I have not found anybody who can say, yeah, throughout my entire group of all of our clients, we have the exact same stack for all of their email filtering, all of their email settings, anything like that. It's not possible. It doesn't happen. So when you set up security awareness training, you are spamming all of your end users. So you've got to figure out how you're going to actually land it in their inbox. Otherwise, you actually don't have valid testing. So when he said, hey, I figured this out so that we can take care of the whitelisting, plenty of people don't believe us. So we love that. When we're at conferences and we say 3 clicks, come try us. If we're wrong, just tell us to pound sand and get out of here. But so in January of 2021, we went partner exclusive because of that solution. When somebody's onboarding with 365, which is 80+% of our users, it is 3 clicks and they are off to the races. In Google, it's 2 more steps. But to give you a good example, we brought over a partner who had 52 end clients that came over from the largest player in our space that everybody is aware of down in Clearwater, Florida. Mm-hmm. And so they, when they came over, we set up a 2-hour onboard. In 90 minutes, they had transitioned 52 clients over. It's going along. It's going well. So we have our marketer who does our testimonials and client interviews and partner interviews and stuff. And he calls him up and has a conversation with him. And I'm so intense about onboarding. If you do not onboard well, any product, I don't care what it is, if you don't onboard well, you've just got problems. But if you do onboard well, you end up just crushing your future service needs. It just doesn't, you cut them in half or cut them by 80% sometimes if you can just onboard well. And so I go, how about that onboarding? And I go, how long did it take when they were with their prior vendor? He said it was 60 to 120 minutes. I was like, dang, man, we were at 90 minutes. Like, I really thought we were like crushing it. He's like, no. That was 1 to 2 hours per client for 52 clients. And now what
That's a whole different story.
So we saved them 50 to 100 hours on the onboarding. So then the question is, okay, onboarding, we can always just set aside and be like, I know it's just going to be a heavy lift. But once we're in, they said, no, we're actually saving that 50 plus hours per month now because we were having to do that much in order to manage the prior tool.
Wow. So it's like no concept of multi-tenancy.
So there's a concept of multi-tenancy, but there isn't the concept of, there is a concept of multi-tenancy. We don't need to get into that part there, but it is the automation. It's who's creating and sending every phishing email, who's making sure that every phishing email is actually landing because they don't have an automated whitelisting, who's then making sure that all of the training is relevant to those end users and making sure that it lands, and then who's following up with it, who's creating all of the reports. Some of that 50 hours per month, George, mind-blowingly, was just getting reports because they weren't even templatized for them so that they could just pull them and send them. So instead, now you can see why people don't actively check this box, because if it's that heavy, yeah,
you just don't have the time. That's the problem.
That's right.
Time.
So once Keith signs up and we're taking care of all the longshoremen through Vistum, we're going to have the Vistum logo right on there, and then they're just getting sent. All of those reports are getting directly hitting all.
I was just thinking about this. I was like, huh? So you plugged in this thing, but then nobody actually got it in their inbox, so then nobody clicked. Can you claim that you actually
we're perfect?
That wouldn't work, right? Because they never actually participated. I was like, I see what's happening here, right? The tool didn't do anything for me.
That's right. That's right. So, truthfully, we are very big on testing. And when you said, how we got into this, while we, security awareness training was a piece of what we were doing, what we realized is that it is a behavioral solution. And my passion is actually in behavioral science. My background, I was a currency trader on Wall Street for 10 years, and it's super fun, but what you learn is that you have to key into your own psychology and the market psychology. And one of the coolest, I think, frontiers for behavioral psychology at this point, because it's been taken into a bunch of different arenas, but is for security. In fact, we've done research with University of Florida with pairing up a psychology professor with a cybersecurity professor.
I can only imagine what that would actually look like. It reminds me of the two old guys from the Muppets.
So these two already had some interest in the effect on aging, like the effect on aging on the brain and the risk that you have or your vulnerability to scams.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. So what they were saying is there's sort of an evolutionary psychology answer to this, that is, as you age, you become more dependent upon your community and those around you, which means that your brain should, if all goes well, your brain should become more trusting so that you can actually trust those people who you're reliant upon. So that's sort of the evolutionary psychology solution. So we're like, okay, well, we're not dealing with the 80-plus-year-old community. We're dealing with the 18 to 65-year-old community. So we need to solve that problem. So they already had some interest in the behavioral elements to things, or at least some of the developmental psychology issues. And so throughout our platform, we've then put in behavioral nudges, behavioral insights, so much so that, George, if you happen to, not that you would obviously ever click on a phishing email, when it comes up the next day, hey, George, next time, like we've already told you about hovering over the LinkedIn link to see if it actually says LinkedIn and stuff. But I mean, we're all aware that there's plenty of domains that are really good lookalikes. Mm-hmm. And so here's a solution. Instead of next time when you get that friend invite from Keith Nelson, who presumably you guys already are, but if not, Keith, you should go send him an invite. You guys should be friends. But just go to LinkedIn.com or go to your app, because it's already going to be there. Why wouldn't you? And a real world example of this was a recent scam from PayPal. And it came from a real PayPal address because somebody had compromised a PayPal for business account. And it said, it literally said, George, your account will be debited for $600 for, this thing that you bought, on Wednesday. Please sign in and cancel it if you do not want this charge to hit. It was a real PayPal link. I mean, real PayPal email. So that was hard to decipher. And then it looked like a real PayPal link. In the end, it wasn't. But by the time you got in there, you had given them your credentials. If you had just gone to paypal.com, you would have seen nothing there. Nothing was actually happening on the real PayPal.
Yeah, I think I've seen this, but it's amazing how many people, like, it's kind of like Microsoft, right? They're like, hey, you need to do the MFA. It's like, why don't you just turn that on by default? Like, I don't understand why I have to go and flip that switch. PayPal doesn't have the MFA turned on by default either. Why? I don't get it.
It's the same reason that it's a struggle to get MFA in from, at every one of our MSP's clients.
So odd.
Nobody wants friction.
So what you're saying is, number one, bad guys are getting smarter, using legitimate avenues to take you to bad places. Two, if it's so hard to implement on board and keep going, you're not going to do it. Three, if it never makes it to your inbox, it doesn't matter. And then four, how do you keep this going, over time, right? Because there, it's almost like the what's that infomercial? Set it and forget it. I was just telling this to somebody yesterday. You know how many times I saw that infomercial? They must have saw millions of those. But there is no, like, very often that doesn't happen in MSP land, right? They're like, oh, it just runs, but that usually doesn't mean that it's working.
So we have one of our handouts at the conferences is one of the quotes that was just fun from one of our partners, because we do lots of partner engagement things so that we can learn from them. And it just says, Infima is close to set it and forget it as possible. And that's exactly what that was verbatim from him. And so
it was the Foreman grill, right? Was it I forget what that was.
It was the Ronco rotisserie, set it and
that's
forget
the
it.
right
Come on.
rotisserie thing. And it just runs. Yeah, set it and forget it. Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
That's perfect. Thanks, man. So our entire design and focus, our ethos on how we're building things is that if something isn't fully intuitive and fully seamless, it just doesn't get used. And Apple showed us this. There is no manual that you go through when you open up your Apple phone, and there's a lot.
It's just the very long terms of service that nobody ever reads. Yep.
Good luck. Our attorney claims he does read it, so he lets us know if there are any changes on that. But technology needs to be as seamless as possible, and that's really easy to say and incredibly hard to do. My own dad asks me why everybody can't just have one-click checkout like Amazon. and I'm like, well, that was billions of dollars and lots of research to get to where they got on their process. And it sounds so simple. But what our entire focus is on is because we are a product that you can't get a lot of revenue out of, but it is a key product that you have to have as an MSP, just like you were saying, George. You have to have it. It's, for most of our partners, it is just part of their standard stack. It's not even something that you can opt out of for most. And if they do, then
if you need to have it, then don't let them opt out. 100%. It
Right.
sounds like, I was just checking out your website while you were trying to dial into the Zoom. So no minimums, month to month. You can add and remove at will, right? It syncs to Office 365 and Google, so it can do the add to move changes based on users being added and removed. How does support look like?
Yeah. So we're very quick on support because we have so few tickets. We have, we kind of look at it from number of tickets per partner per month, or per partner per year, or just number of tickets gross. It sounds a little bit silly, but we're looking at generally maybe 2 tickets per year per partner.
Wow.
And that's more so the high end than anything else. If you onboard well, and we spend a lot of time on it, if you onboard well, then somebody doesn't get doesn't get onto your platform. It's like, crap, what am I doing? I need to go ask all of these different questions. And if we communicate throughout that process and have clarity and don't have all sorts of random edge cases, then the path just goes smoothly. Because at the end of the day, Every MSP has 458 other tools that they need to deal with. And candidly, most of the other tools actually make them more money than ours does. And so ours makes money and it's good margin, but it's on a small dollar price. And so that is why we need to be as seamless and simple as possible for them to deliver. You can make it as complicated and painful as you want, but we just elect to not do that. We don't, as an MSP,
complicated and painful means that you're going to be 6 months down the road again, and you're going to be like, man, I bought that thing walking down the trade show floor and I never turned it on. That's unfortunately what happens.
And we hate that. I absolutely hate when I'm getting charged, burning licenses, being charged for something I don't use. And so, every advisor tells us not to do the month to month like we do, but it is part of our part of our ethos. Our partners can have contracts. Our partners can have contracts with their end clients. It could be multi-year. But if that partner says go pound sand, it is unlikely that most of our partners have the wherewithal to actually go and pursue a lawsuit there. So effectively, their clients are month to month. And so we need to match that.
Okay, so 3-click onboarding. I want somebody to go and Keith Nelson, I'm going to make you responsible to do 3-click onboarding. See if it's actually 3 clicks. If you have time, of course, in between your Cowboys games. So that's number one. Number two, there's the automation between adding and removing users. You don't have to touch it. It's just monitoring Office 365 and Google. So like as moves changes, it's already done for you, which is great, unless you don't disable your Office 365 or Google users, which is a whole other problem all to itself. How often are people getting those test messages, those test spam messages?
That's a good question. So our baseline is once a month for every single user across every organization at different times throughout the month and with varying content. So it's not like you're just saying like, hey, that one from Billy Bob for LinkedIn, don't click on it. Nobody's getting that same thing. And then when somebody does,
because once one person talks about it, they all know. Yeah.
And again, you had talked about the testing stuff. How do you have a valid test? If it doesn't land in your inbox, it's not a valid test. If you have a hint, it's not a valid test. If somebody tells you, hey, don't click on that. And then at the in the event that somebody does click, then they are automatically retargeted over the next week. They will get at random, they will get another one. So if you think about what that means is I click January, I click on one, I'm going to get another one. If I click on that in the next week and then I click on that, then February tees up another one. And then I'm going to start snowballing really quickly. And we want that. And it's all highlighted in the reporting automatically. But those are the types of things that start sending off the signals that a partner's like, hey, look, you have a problem with this or this or this user who are clicking. Hey, by the way, we should probably go and take a look again at, your email filtering or your AEV or your BDR, what other process needs to also, hey, we have a great thing that we need to be talking to you about. Here's where it is in this report. Now let's go talk to you about the other things that we need to address too, because clearly we do have a people problem. Every organization across the planet has a people problem. We need to just be able to show how that, we try to remediate it, but the partner needs to show how they can also solve that in other ways.
It's amazing how many people get spoofed, and that spoof leads to money going into the wrong person's bank account, never to be seen again. Number one. Number two, I actually saw a company once get hit so many times by this, attack vector that they went to their bank and said, we need a double opt-in process for you to do any transaction. Like that's how far they had to go because they got hit like more than one time. And I'm like, I can only imagine the insurance company is not going to keep paying these out. Like you maybe get one, maybe get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 ain't happening.
Yeah, when you're a repeat offender. Yeah. And we have to ask them how long it took them to get MFA, even though they went through the whole process to do that at the bank. So
no, so I literally heard this where like every banking transaction is pending. They have to go into a portal and approve them. And then like they have to like do a second thing, I forget what it is, to actually release them. And I'm like, that's a lot of extra work at the bank level, all because it started from email.
It creates an enormous problem. And for those who have been hit, unfortunately, they start to, everything changes. And, the level that cybersecurity plays in that organization changes. But if you think about it from the attacker's perspective, it's a huge amount of work on our perspective for the good guys. From the attacker's perspective, sending out emails costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Creating new emails doesn't take long. Go into ChatGPT and just throw in some prompts and get some cool emails, and you don't even have spelling issues. You don't have grammar issues anymore. Boom, pop those in and start sending them. Finding email addresses.
That's odd that you say that, because like they're spinning up Office 365 and Google accounts. So they're in server, right? They're in platform, and they're using that to send to other people, right? On the same, you know what I mean? And that way it's like, oh, well, it's not coming from India or wherever, right? It's coming in platform.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So their messages are making it to the inbox. Yours need to make it too.
That's right.
There you go.
So,
you can use that one. I think that was good.
I'll write it down. but that's exactly it. So the objective is to make it so that partners can come in, sign up, 3 clicks, they're onboarded. Their pricing works with alongside what they need. It is white labeled so that they get reporting directly to their client as they desire. It can go directly to a point of contact. And they have a security awareness training policy that is the bow that you tie right on top. Hand that to your vendors, to your clients, your clients' clients for vendor questionnaires. Hand that to your regulators. Hand that to your cybersecurity insurer. And ours has been used for so many thousands of organizations, and it's working great. We love our partners, and so it's been fun working with with you guys, George. So I'm looking forward to that
we
this
love
year.
this. So Keith Nelson, you gonna go try this or what?
Yeah, definitely. It's on my map where I was just doing. We were changing
So we'll
our
give,
RMM and
we'll give
PSA,
you,
but next
we'll
step
wait.
is we're gonna
Should
do
we
this.
wait? Should we say get it done before your game against San Francisco or after?
It'll be after. I'm gonna have to spend. You know how many hours I'm gonna spend arranging to go up to see go find the right tickets in San Francisco, see if I can get a sideline pass. There's a lot of things I got to do, George.
If what you think is going to happen, Keith, that means we're going to have to rendezvous in South Philadelphia for the NFC Championship game.
Yes, if it's funny, I didn't even realize till last night we can get another home game.
Not if the Eagles win.
No, I'm just saying I didn't even know it was possible. If the Giants win and we win, we're the home team.
That's not going to happen.
And the NFC Championship game moves back to the capital of the United States, AT&T Stadium.
That's not going to happen.
Do you know what kind of seats I get there, George?
No, it's not happening. Don't want to hear it. It's not happening. You have to come to Philadelphia. Bundle up, pal.
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Joel, how do we find you? How do we contact you? How do we learn more? How do we sign up? How do we demo?
Yeah, so we're active on LinkedIn. You can find us in Infima, and you can hop onto our site, infimasec.com, and you set up a demo from there. It's very simple, and we only take 15 minutes of your time. You're welcome to give us more if you want, but we can do that demo in 15 minutes or less. And we just love working with this community. It's working.
15 minutes.
And I don't think you mentioned, you have other training on there besides just spam training. Is that correct? Like there's
Thanks for asking, Keith. So we hit all of the training that flows down from NIST, from HIPAA, from FINRA, from the SEC, from all of those different governing bodies, and that is what our focus is across the board on the security awareness.
And so we can direct our clients into a class schedule or whatever you want to call it. Just say you're a medical office. I want you to have your office manager do these HIPAA classes and assign them. Is that possible?
That's right. It's assigned by default. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
We're gonna come here from you, Keith. I'm gonna bother you till we get the answer.
Okay.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, this session was recorded. We're gonna post it online at mspinitiative.com under sessions, so you can go back and rewind and be like, Joel, I got you saying right here. Like, where is it? Show me.
That's right.
So it's gonna be up there. Hit Joel's team up. Hit their website. Sounds like 15-minute demo. I almost don't believe that, but hey, 15 minutes. If you can't do that, you got other problems. So definitely check them out. We're going to continue these Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time. If there is a situation where Keith Nelson comes into South Philadelphia, rest be sure, just be sure that we'll be loud. You're going to have to see him live. I may have to tell him not to walk in certain areas so he doesn't get hit by beer bottles or anything, but We'll see. All right. Thanks everyone for joining. See you on the next one.
Thanks, George.
All right. See ya.